I've been squatting for a long time. I've been able to do over twice my body weight for the last 10 years, and I've gotten pretty close to 3 times body weight. Uh, I've always had an issue when I go super heavy with hitting depth. And for me, it wasn't a strength thing. It wasn't that I wasn't strong enough to do it. It was a confidence issue. And I also made some adjustments to my squat stance and technique that provided me with a little bit more core stability. And I wanted to demonstrate 3 accessories that I do that really helped me with confidence when I have a heavy amount of weight on my back and I'm down in the hole. And I'll show you the 3 that I like to do. They're my go-tos. I do them every week. And I'll show you the modification that I made to my squat stance, which allowed me to have a much more stable core, and it honestly just made the weight feel 100 times lighter. I mean, just making a minor tweak that I did to my stance. Now, that being said, I have a build that's kind of conducive to squatting. Just the length of my torso, legs, arms, everything. I'm pretty well built to perform the barbell squat, and what works for me might not work for you. But I think that the tweaks that I've made to my squat stance are something that everybody can try, and I think that it will work for most people, especially if they're already low bar squatting. So let me show you what I like to do. Alright, so first things first, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people that I see squatting, I don't think that they have their back in an optimal position. So what I see that a lot of people that are taught is, they have their feet wherever they like them. It could be shoulder width, it could be, maybe you're a wide squatter. They're told to look up. So they get under the bar, and then we get their bar across their delts, we step out, and they're told that they have to have a proud chest like this, and they're supposed to look up. So when they're squatting down, they have their back arched as such. I don't think that is optimal, because what I see happen is when these guys have a lot of weight on their back, when they're coming down, they're not stable in here. So to fix that, I adopted the technique and stance that Mark Ripito had in his starting strength book. And what that involves is, and the way it was taught to me, is to find your natural, how you want your back aligned. My coach had me sit in a chair, and he said, now just get out of the chair normally. So what do you do when you get out of the chair? Well, most people lean forward and they stand up. And he said, now note mentally your back position when you're coming out of the chair. That's your squat stance. That's where you're generating power. So now that we have the angle we want to be at, how do we align our spine and everything? Well, quite simply, I'm going to get the bar on my back, and I'm going to walk out, get my feet set, and just tighten everything up. Now, if you notice, I'm looking downwards. So instead of up, I'm down. And I'm going to act basically like I'm going to sit in a chair. So I tighten the core, and when I break the hips, I'm just sitting like I am in a chair, and that's where I'm going to generate power. So, and when I'll show you a couple of clips of me squatting light and squatting heavy. And even though the speed of the squat's different, you'll notice that the form is spot on. It's If I got 500 pounds on my back, it's the same as if I got 135 pounds on my back. I'm like, I've got the form dialed in, so I'm consistent throughout the rep ranges. I'm almost pushing up from here. So this is like I'm generating power in an upward direction. And as you push your hips through, everything kind of straightens up. And if you video yourself from the side, you'll notice the bar travels in a straight line. And it's, to me, it's a more natural position. I just feel like I have a ton more stability just by making that minor adjustment from looking up to looking down, and then locking everything in, tightening everything up. If you notice, if you tighten your core and squeeze your back, you really can't arch. It's very difficult to do that. So that just locks you in the position that you need to be. So one of the most important cues is to make sure you're tightening everything up. So I'm just getting on the bar, lift her up, get my feet positioned, tighten, and I don't need the box here. I'm just demonstrating that it's basically the same thing as just getting out of a seat. It's the same position I'm pressing from, just like I'm getting out of a chair. Which, incidentally, brings us to our next exercise. One of the best exercises for me to produce stability at the bottom of the lift and generate force, momentum, is the box squat. But I had to be taught to do it a certain way. So I'm going to demonstrate to you how I do box squats, and these have helped me immensely. I go pretty heavy on these. So my goal when I'm box squatting is force generation. I'm going to get the bar on my back, and as I come down, I rest on the box. I'm going to do a 2-second count, and then I'll come forward, get back into position, and the goal is, once keeping the core tight, once I get to the proper angle, I'm going to fire up as fast as I can. So I'm going for maximum force generation. Rep ranges on these, for me, where I found them to be effective to where they actually helped with my 1 rep maximum, was in that 5 to 10 range. So, working 60-70% of your max, sets of 5 to 10. Any lighter than that, I didn't really. I couldn't correlate a translation to my 1 rep max. Any heavier than that, same thing. You get diminishing returns at your top end. But living in that 5, 6, 7, 8 rep range, after doing these consistently for 4 to 6 weeks, I found that I was able to hit depth with no problems. And I don't know if it was just this lift alone, or if it was this with the combination of the other 2 exercises I'm going to show you. In addition, I don't know which one worked, but it did work, so I just keep doing all 3 of them, and it just seems like my squat just keeps improving. And it started when I started incorporating these. So let me demonstrate. So I'm going to go down slow. 1, 2, fire. Go down slow. 1, 2, fire. Go down slow. 1, 2, fire. So as you can see, I'm launching the weight up pretty heavy, pretty hard. So I'm going for speed. I'm going for as fast as I can control it. eccentric movement maximally fires the gluteal liftogen receptacles when you I don't know. I think when you're the eccentric movement, you're getting a nice eccentric in there. You're tensing up at the bottom, and you're firing from a completely static position, which for me helped me to be able to generate force out of the hole. I don't know, science. Alright, so the next lift is I'm going to show you I actually have a lot of fun with. It's the lift that I use when I'm trying to get accustomed to handling heavier weights. So, you know, with the deadlift, if you wanted to lift more than you were able to, you would use the rack pull to shorten your length of motion. You can maybe, I don't know, put 100 pounds more on the bar. If you're benching, you would use blocks to shorten your range of motion. And most guys can bench 40, 50 pounds more. How do you do it with a squat? Well, I was taught what they told me was called the Henderson squat. I've heard it called the Anderson squat. But essentially, you're squatting off the pins. So you're going to set pins on your rack. So for you got a power rack, you just squat off the pins. I have this, my rack kind of looks, see, it's got this metal slide on it. I can actually rest the bar on that and use it like a Smith machine, or I can squat straight out of it, which is probably better. But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to set the pins so that we're starting in a squat position that's just above parallel. And you're saying, like, well, I'm having a hard time hitting depth. Why would I want to squat above parallel? So this works because you can add way more weight than you're accustomed to. So you're squatting 500, it looks like pretty easily. You got a lot of speed behind that. So you might be able to get 600 pounds on the bar, and you start from that slightly elevated position, and you're starting from a static position. So you're getting under the weight and you're pushing off of the pins. And I found that doing these, working up to a competition, I would pepper these in every other week or so, about the same frequency that you would do rack pulls. And as I got closer to the meet, I would raise the pins a little to almost to where I was doing a walkout, and I would load that bar up. So the last competition I lifted, I hit 525, or right around there. I don't know what the weight is in kilos, but so I did heavy walkouts a few days before the meet, and I did these. I put 700 pounds on the bar, and I was able to, because I have that elevated position and I could get underneath it, I was able to get that up. So, and then immediately I went into my squat routine, and the weight just felt light. I mean, because you're dropping, you know, what, 200 pounds to go into your normal squats? So it helped. I don't know if it works mentally, or if if you do them regularly enough, you actually get strong enough to where it translates to your 1 rep max lift. But it worked for me, and it's kind of fun. So, you know, it's one of those cool lifts that you can do at the gym with your buddies, where you just kind of want to fart around and see how much weight you can throw on the bar. Now, something to consider. You're at a commercial gym, just like a rack pull. If you're loading the bar up 600-700 pounds, don't drop that thing on the pins, because you'll bend the bar, and that equipment's expensive. And if you're lifting at home in the garage, say even how many, you don't want to buy a new squat bar. So just something to consider. You know, when you lower it, try not to slam it down, because it will bend the crap out of your bars. fun. I love doing those. I mean, I know it's not a real squat, but there's just something really enjoyable about putting that much weight on your back and being able to rep it out for a set of 3 to 5. And it's a super confidence booster, or at least it was for me. So we've done 2 exercises that focus on force generation from a static position, i.e. the bottom of your lift. What we want to spend some time focusing on is being able to get into that below parallel position and hold it there. So I'm going to do pause squats as my 3rd exercise, and I consider these 3 the best accessories. I found that the accessories that work the best are the ones that mimic the actual movement you're trying to perform as closely as possible. You know, I've messed around with heavy lunges, belt squats, that sort of stuff, and I leg press. I mean, I can leg press 2,000 pounds, so why can't I squat 600? You know, it's obviously not the legs. The legs are not the problem. The weak link in the chain for most people is going to be your core. So these work my core a lot better. The pause squat, I think, of all the 3 that I'm going to do today, I would say is probably the one that is, if you're going to just pick one of these exercises, it's probably the one that you should do on a regular basis. And the beauty of them is that you can just incorporate them right into your normal squat routine. I know some guys that will do pause squats on their way up to their heavy working sets. I know some guys that'll do their heavy working sets and then drop down and do pause squats. Finishing, so you already got the bar set up, you just go right into them. I mean, really, what are we talking about? You're already doing squats. The main difference is that you're just going to hold it for a second and while you're at the bottom. And you can vary where you put the pause. So depending on where your hang-up spot is, that's where you can live with your pause. So you can change it up. You can, if you're one of those guys that likes to go deep in the hole, ass to grass, pause down there for a second. For me, I found I didn't have a problem bottoming out, and I didn't have a problem generating force out of the hole. It was right above parallel is where I got stuck. So that's where I focus my pauses, is right at parallel. Another thing to consider when you're doing any squats, any variation, is I found it immensely beneficial to rotate foot placement. So, you know, if you squat narrow, go wide. Simple. So I do the same thing for deadlifts. I sumo one week, I go conventional the next. And I found that, you know, by changing things up, it keeps everything balanced. And it's only going to make whichever way you squat on the platform better if you add some simple variety to it. And the easiest way to do that with squats is foot placement. Let me demonstrate a pause squat. Alright, how I like to do these: 2 seconds down, 1 second in the hole, fire up, shoot for a weight that's between 3 and 5 reps, sets of 3 to 4, accessory after you're done with your regular squat. Good. 1, 2, hold up. 1, 2, hold up. 1, 2, hold up. That's 2 heavy squat days in 3 days, so my legs are pretty much toast. Or I would normally rep those out a little more. Honorable mention, or rather, don't forget about front squats or variations of the front squats. I found these to be immensely helpful. It seems like my low bar squat is always within 100 pounds of my front squat. So when I get my front squat numbers up, my back squat just shoots up with it, and it helps correct core and posture issues, and it helped me with driving force. If you're one of those guys that has an issue with pancaking, front squats will help correct that. It's an awesome quad exercise, and just I found it, just doing a variety of different squat variations, peppering them in throughout your training program. They just keep you more well-rounded and more healthy, and hammers your core. It's just I can't stress enough. I would say my entire routine is built around the barbell squat. Everything kind of stems from that as my primary exercise. For what it's worth.